The Irish Wolfhound was a very large hunting dog bred by the ancient Irish, first attested to in the year 391, when Roman consul Quintus Aurelius Symmachus was gifted 7 of the beasts to be used in fights against lions and bears. He wrote that all Rome viewed them with wonder. In 1571, English Jesuit priest Edmund Campion wrote, "The Irish are not without wolves, and greyhounds to hunt them, bigger of bone and limb than a colt." But in 1786, the last wolf in Ireland was killed, leaving the massive Irish Wolfhound without a job. They still hung around for a few years, with English natural history writer Thomas Bewick describing their aspect as mild, their disposition peaceful, and their strength so great that in combat the Mastiff or Bulldog was far from being an equal to them. But within a few years, their numbers dwindled drastically, and they eventually became extinct. However, in the late 1800s, British Army officer and dog breeder George Augustus Graham revived the Irish Wolfhound to the best of his ability by breeding dogs of a similar breed that were said to descend from the original Wolfhound. This is where the modern Irish Wolfhound came from, which is today one of the largest of all dog breeds, although Graham admitted this modern version was not the same as the original, only giving us a fair idea of what the original was, though undoubtedly considerably his inferior in size and power. And while the original probably wasn't all that much bigger, the Irish Wolfhound is just one example of a dog breed that went extinct and then came back, although there are many that only managed the going extinct part. Most, like the Irish Wolfhound, were bred for a particular purpose, and then, when that purpose became obsolete, people stopped breeding them. Perhaps the oddest example is the turnspit dog from Britain. As the name implies, it worked in kitchens, literally turning spits to cook meat by running on a big wheel. Kitchens would often have more than one turnspit dog, and they'd work in shifts, with natural history writer John George Wood writing, "The dogs were quite able to appreciate the lapse of time, and if not relieved from their toils at the proper hour, would leap out of the wheel without orders, and force their companions to take their place and complete their portion of the daily toil." With long bodies and short, crooked legs, the turnspit dog was not highly regarded as a noble companion, and was seen more as a common, lowly mongrel, which is probably why it went extinct with advancements in cooking technology. Outside of cooking food, the dogs were also sometimes taken to church to serve as foot warmers, which leads us to the rather amusing story of a sermon in Bath in which the Bishop of Gloucester proclaimed, "It was then that Ezekiel saw the wheel," when several turnspit dogs leapt up and ran for the door at the mention of the word wheel. A turnspit dog named Whiskey actually survives in taxidermy. Conversely, the medieval English Talbot Hound is regarded as very noble indeed, appearing in many heraldic crests and coats of arms. A hunting dog, the Talbot is thought to have been a small to medium white dog, not very fast, but highly regarded for its powerful nose. It may be related to the modern bloodhound. It's not entirely certain why this dog disappeared around the 18th century. Perhaps the hunting dog market just became too competitive, but its impact is still felt today. You'll find many hotels and pubs across the British Isles that reference the Talbot. Even more distinguished were the King's White Hounds, a breed of white scent hounds maintained exclusively by French kings, from Louis XI to Louis XIV. Famous across Europe for their speed, Louis XIV began breeding them with slower hounds so he could keep up with them as he aged. Louis XV then disbanded the pack in 1725 in favour of English foxhound crosses, at which point the King's White Hounds faded from history. The Tajichi is thought to be the ancestor of the Chihuahua, existing in the Toltec civilization in the 9th century. Surviving depictions are hilarious. Spanish explorer Francisco Hernandez wrote of the dogs in 1578, claiming the native people ate them as commonly as rabbit. The Spanish often ate them too, and by the 19th century, they no longer existed. As annoying as I find these kinds of rat-like dogs, supposedly Tajichis were mute and could not bark, so maybe they weren't that bad. The Hastriodor Brazilro was a hunting dog bred in mid-20th century Brazil. This breed has been revived, so we have an idea of what it roughly looked like. Looks a bit like a beagle to me. The Hastriodor Brazilro was made to hunt jaguars and boars. What? This lovely little fella? You can't be sending him after those beasts. That's shocking. The Salish Wool Dog was bred by the Salish people of North America, who were renowned for their weaving and knitting despite not raising sheep. Yep, they used dog fur. Yes, that's a dog. The Salish Wool Dog was small with a long white hair. There is a surviving pelt from a Salish Wool Dog called Mutton, who died in 1859. By the start of the 1900s, they were all gone. The Melus was a large and powerful livestock guardian from ancient Greece, widely believed to be the progenitor of modern mastiffs. It is most famous today for its representation in a Roman statue, itself a copy of a now lost Greek statue, the Melus being celebrated across the ancient world. Pliny the Elder mentions a similar statue that was so realistic and beautiful that it could not be insured with any sum of money, and instead its custodians were answerable for its safety with their lives. The Mexican lapdog was, you guessed it, a lapdog from Mexico. Just look at this drawing. Possibly related to the Chihuahua, it is thought to be the smallest breed of dog to ever exist, supposedly no bigger than a guinea pig. A tiny taxidermy specimen still survives to this day, but it's unknown if this really was the dog at full size or if this was a puppy. Passing off taxidermy puppies as curiously small dog breeds was a common hoax in the 19th century. The Hare Indian dog was bred in northern Canada by the Hare Indians for coursing. It's thought it may have been a mix of coyote. It was supposedly very playful and affectionate, rubbing its back against people like a cat. I'm mostly including it because some of the pictures of it are mad. The Grand Fauve de Bretagne was a French scent hound used to hunt wolves and boar from the 16th century to the late 19th. He looks nice in this picture, but the Grand Fauve de Bretagne was infamously unruly and difficult to control, known to cause chaos and kill livestock while on hunts. This and the dwindling wolf population in France may have contributed to its falling by the wayside. The Cordova Fighting Dog. This fearsome looking fella was bred in Argentina until 1954. A mix of various types of mastiffs, the Cordova Fighting Dog was bred for dog fighting and was noted for its extreme aggressiveness and high pain tolerance, from which sprung an eager willingness to fight to the death. Dogfighting was made illegal in Argentina in 1954, so you no longer have to worry about one of these bad boys eating your toddler whole while you watch on helplessly. In contrast to those anti-social hooligans, here's another dog with a job. The Belgian Mastiff was used as a draft dog, using its muscular physique to pull carts of groceries. Or guns. Yes, after service in 2 world wars, man decided to maybe no longer use dogs to pull things. Except sled dogs, they're still employed. Not including the Argentine Polar Dog, of course. How could a dog be Argentinian and of a polar variety? The Argentine army bred them to haul freight around its bases in Antarctica. As a signatory of the Antarctic Treaty, Argentina was required to remove any exotic species it had introduced to the continent in 1994. This obviously included the Argentine Polar Dog, and several dozen of them were relocated to Argentina. Sadly, as they had existed in isolation for so long, they had no immunity to diseases common in other dogs, and many died shortly after. There are, of course, a whole host of other extinct dogs, but I'm not running a natural history encyclopedia. I just wanted to tell you about some interesting ones. I hope you found them interesting too. Which was your favourite? Who would win in a fight? Etc, etc. Let me know in the comments, and watch my other videos if you liked this one. Subscribe if you want to see more in the future, and join the channel membership to support me monetarily. Until next time, stay safe. Despite not raising sheep. Yep, they used dog fur. What? The Salish Wool Dog was bred by the Salish people of North America, who were renowned for their weaving and knitting despite not raising sheep. No. The Salish Wool Dog was bred by the... What are you saying, lad? He looks nice in this picture, but the Grand Fauve... Fuck you. The Grand Fauve de Bretagne was a as a signatory of the Antarctic Treaty. Argentina. Fuck's sake.